Welcome back to Checkmate with Blake. And in this video, I'm going to show you guys how to completely crush the move d4 as black. I'm going to show you guys an opening that is very tactical and very dynamic. If you play the ready opening, which is one of my favorite openings, this opening that I'm going to show you guys has many similarities to that and many brilliant traps that I will show you. And I think by the end of this video, you guys will be convinced that you should try this opening. The opening that I'm talking about is called the Old Benoni Defense. And you may have seen this I have on the board. It's after the move d4, we play the move c5. But there are so much in this opening. There's so many traps that I've done very deep research to find some many brilliant moves I'm going to present to you guys in this video. If you find this video helpful, please hit the subscribe button and join the community that we have here. I'd love to have you guys. And also, if you enjoy this video, please give it a like. Now, why would we play the Old Benoni defense? We're going to kind of take a little bit of a back step. Because when people play the move d4 as white, they're trying generally to play a Queen's Gambit. Most of the time, they're playing Queen's Gambit. Maybe they're playing a London. Maybe they're playing a Catalan. And this opening is going to completely crush all of those ideas. Now, when people play the move d4, and we go into like more of a standard Queen's Gambit, they know the theory. They're going for like a positional game. But we're going to take them out of theory with this opening. And we're going to completely crush them with the move c5. Again, this is the Old Benoni defense. I'm going to cover a lot of things in this video. I'm going to cover what happens if they take it, what happens if they don't respond to our threat, what happens if they push the pawn. We're going to cover everything in this video to keep you guys well prepared to play this, and I'm going to show so many traps. I think you guys will win so many games if you do try this opening. So we're going to start out with the most obvious. First of all, we're playing this move c5, which is a flank pawn attack, attacking a central pawn. And the reason behind this is we're already forcing them to make a decision on move 1. They cannot simply play, or move 2. They cannot simply play the move c4 and continue with their Queen's Gambit theory. They have to first deal with our threat of c5 because we are currently threatening to take this pawn and immediately change the game. So they have to make a decision. Now, do they want to protect this pawn? Do they want to take it? What do they want to do? First, let's look at the obvious move. What happens if they take our pawn? Similar to some of those ready gambit lines I cover, we play the move e6. e6 immediately threatens to recapture. And of course, if they do nothing, we recapture and we have a great position. I mean, I would love to play this position for black, and white doesn't even know what they're doing. They're already out of theory. So instead, most of the time, they're going to try and defend this pawn with the move b4. Notice it's an inaccuracy, and I'm going to show why here. And I will also show if they don't play this move. We will now play the move a5, immediately trying to break their center. If they think, okay, well, I'll just solidify my center, I don't want to lose it, because if we lose this pawn, we're going to take this pawn as well, they may play the move a3. But if we take, notice they cannot recapture, because if they recapture, we win the rook in the corner, and we've already won the game. Okay, so maybe they're smarter than that, and they realize maybe I can play the move c3. Well, now we take, and after they take back, we have the sneaky move, queen f6, and we win the rook in the corner. They cannot defend it. In fact, their best move is actually to give away the knight, and after a series like this, we're still up material. We're up 2 points in the opening with a great position. So, in this example, of course, they play nothing. We win the rook in the corner. So, in this example, we're already winning. We're completely crushing. So, they cannot simply defend the pawn. They can't play the move b4. So instead, like I said, if we look at some of the top lines here, maybe like e4, we will win this pawn and we have a great center. So if they take the pawn, we're going to have a great center and a great game because they cannot defend the pawn. Now let's go back here. Maybe they're smarter than that. Maybe they know that they can't take the pawn. So instead they play this move d5. Now the engine here, I want to point out, does recommend the move e6 to just straight away attack this. But the problem with e6 is it allows the move e4, which is a little challenging. We actually want them to play c4, which is the main line. So instead, we're going to play this move knight f6. We play knight f6 to stop e4 because if e4 is ever played, now we will win the pawn. So instead, they play the move c4. Now, once they play the move c4, now we play e6, knowing that e4 is never a threat. Now here's another line that's very tactical and very awesome. I found this, I did some research on it. Again, this is similar to the ready gambit, so that's where I found some of these ideas. But if they decide to push the pawn to think, okay, my queen covers it, and now they can't develop, black must be in a lot of trouble here. But now we throw in this sneaky trap, knight e4. We're double attacking the pawn, and the only way that white can actually defend this pawn is to play the move bishop f4, which as the engine immediately says, hey, this is an inaccuracy. And why is it? Because now, again, queen f6. We're attacking this bishop and we're attacking this pawn. And if they simply drop the bishop back to go ahead and cover here, well, actually, we take here, we're winning the rook in the corner. Because they have to play the move knight d2. Actually, the engine says to just give away the rook. But if they try knight d2, we take, king cannot take, so queen must capture. And then we take here, and we are simply up so much material, up 6 points of material, we will win this game. Okay, let's go back a little bit. What if instead of going here, what if they drop all the way back to cover the pawn on b2? Well, now we take here, and it is immediately a checkmate in one. Okay, hold on. What if they play the move queen c1? That seems like a pretty solid move, right? Queen c1 covers the bishop, covers the pawn. Now we throw in a brilliant move. We sacrifice the knight. Knight takes f2 is a brilliant move. They must capture because we're threatening to take here. So after they take back, now we play g5 after knight f3, which is their best move. And g5 is played because, again, the bishop is pinned to the king. So the bishop cannot move, and so now we're just threatening to capture it back. After a move like knight f3, we will take with the queen. That's the key idea, because after we do this series of exchanges, we're up one pawn, but white cannot castle, and more importantly, we are threatening to win this pawn. Actually, they can't defend this pawn, really. So we are threatening to win this pawn as well. So after another series of development, for example, something like this here, not actually taking right away, but actually playing knight c6 first. Regardless, they cannot cover this pawn, and we will completely win this game as well. We're up 1.56 playing as black, so who would not want this in their games? So let's go back a little bit. Those are some of the traps they may fall into. But what if they don't fall for these traps? And instead, in this position, we'll go back here just to give you guys an example of how we got here. Remember, we play c5, they push, we play knight f6, and then they play c4, and now we play the move e6. Now we're going to talk about some of the main ideas and the main theory that you should know if you're going to play this. Because if they don't fall for these traps, you should at least know the main line that you may encounter. So now the main line continues knight c3. In this position, I don't recommend you capturing just yet, although that is the engine top move, or one of the top moves. I recommend playing the move d6, which is the second top move in the position. And I recommend d6 because, again, you're asking challenges. First of all, you're covering your pawn here, but you're asking them some questions. If they take this pawn, the reason I like playing d6 is because you can consider capturing with the bishop. Now, I want to point out, the engine says it's best to take with the pawn to have a strong center. And there's nothing wrong with it. And you feel free to look at this with an engine and decide which one's better for you. But I would like to maybe take with the bishop because we're adding so much pressure to this and we're developing a piece. But I'll leave that kind of up to you on which one you would rather take. But most of the time, they won't actually even capture because they think I have a strong center. I'm not going to capture that. Let's just say a move like knight f3 comes in, which is just developing a piece. And here is where we recommend a few different ideas, but my favorite that I think is the most forcing, which is why I recommend you play it, is to take the pawn, e takes d5. Now we are trying to break down their center. Now here they're at a crossroads. This is the important crossroads of the position. This is what's going to determine your setup, is right this next move. So pay attention to this next move. If they take with the pawn, so if they take with the pawn, they have to decide taking with the pawn or taking with the knight. First, we'll look at if they take with the pawn. Here you play the move a6. And a6 is designed to kind of go ahead and attack over here on the queen side. And you'll see why in just a second. Let's say the move e4 comes in. Now you play the move b5. And if they just play like a passive move, like bishop e2, notice after pawn b4, you're completely crushing. Because once they move this knight, you can take the pawn in the center. So let's go back. What if they play, a move like bishop d3? Here is where your setup really shows. Here's where the old Benoni, or now we're technically playing, I guess, the modern variation. Now I'm going to show you guys the whole point of this opening. Because now you play the move g6, and all of a sudden, white realizes they are in trouble. Because after, for example, castles, bishop g7, rook e1, and castles, which are just some, developing moves, they realize the threat of the Benoni. The Benoni's threat is that we are looking at this pawn on b2. We're looking at the queen side. Look at how much we have developed on the queen side, how much we've pushed these pawns. And also look how our bishop is now eyeing down the queen side, threatening to just completely crush their position. Especially after we put more pieces to the party here, we are going to completely dominate by attacking the queen side with this bishop that they didn't even realize they had to worry about. Let's go back a little bit here. Let's go all the way here. As I said, it's a crossroads position. So what happens if they take with the knight? Well, now what I recommend, although the engine says you can take here, I recommend just developing your other knight because you're asking them another question. If they take here, we are perfectly happy to have our queen on f6. Notice now we're actually winning. But if they don't take, and let's just say maybe a move like e3, notice they cannot play e4 now because their knight has captured, meaning the e4 pawn would hang. Now after a move like e3, we again play the move g6. Let's just say bishop d3, bishop g7, castles, and castles. And now we have another, idea where we're looking again at the queen side. We're threatening to move these pieces out of the way and have this really strong attack here. And also, we can always consider taking at some point and just moving our knight. But the point being is you have a very solid setup, and white doesn't really know what they're doing. They're out of their preparation. They wanted to play a Queen's Gambit or a Catalan or whatever they wanted to play, and now they don't even know what they're in. But the advantage of playing this opening is that you know what position you're in, and you know that your knight here can develop, and you just have a very strong middle game. You have a very solid attack. I won't spend too long at these lines because we're starting to get into like we're starting to get out of the opening, really. But I'm going to go back just a little bit, and I first want to cover some alternate lines. Because what if after the move c5, I said they had to respond to it. So what if they don't respond by taking or pushing or any of those cool lines I showed you guys? What if instead they play a move like knight f3 thinking, okay, this looks like a Sicilian. Maybe we can go to some kind of Sicilian variation. But now notice after we go down this line, you have the move d4, which you don't typically have in Sicilian. Because if we compare this to Sicilian lines, let's go back here. Let's just say they go into some kind of Sicilian, and we go into a line like this. Notice d4 doesn't work because the pawn here hangs. So instead, the advantage of playing this way, it's like a better Sicilian. Because after this line here, and we take, and go here, now we have central control, and their knight, although it's in the center, can be easily pushed away by a move like e5. So they cannot simply play knight f3. So let's say instead they play a move like knight c3, thinking they're just going to focus on development, and if we capture, they'll capture with the queen. But this is like white is now playing the Scandinavian, and we're perfectly fine. Actually, after we develop knight c6, we're actually winning. I mean, it's 0.01, but we are equalized in the opening, and black has a great position. I mean, of course, after a move like queen a4 and d5, we just have a very strong position. We're going to have a fun game too. And white is completely out of theory, which is, again, kind of the main idea. And lastly, what if they decide to push one of these pawns here? What if they play e3? Well, now you have won the opening, because white did not want to play e3. They did not want to play a passive move where they also block in their bishop. So by playing e3, now we can play the move d5, and of course, we just have a great position. We have great central control. We have two pawns in the center, and they have a passive pawn that blocks a bishop. Similarly, if they play the move c3, we can do the same thing, just immediately play the move d5, because now they have a passive pawn. And if you're playing white, you don't want to have a passive pawn on the second move. So as you can see, we're forcing them to either play a passive move or to go into our theory that you guys now know. So I hope you guys go and try this opening, because again, if they do fall for the theory, we're going to crush them with tactical and dynamic play. If they don't fall for the theory and they instead play like the main lines and they go something like this, we have a great position. We're going to attack on the queen side, and we have a great middle game. And again, most importantly, white is out of their theory and out of their prep. So we are going to have a great game. We're not going to have to worry about studying a ton of these lines, because white is not going to know what they're doing in this position. If you guys found this video pretty helpful and enjoyable, leave a like again, and feel free to subscribe if you want to join the community. Again, a lot of these ideas are actually very similar to some of the ready gambit lines that I've shown. I'll attach some videos to that at the end of this, so if you guys want to go check that out and learn how to play this opening pretty much as white, stick to the end and you will see some of those similar tactics and ideas that are in those videos as well. I thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.